To be humble, to be kind, it is a giving of the peace in your mind. To a stranger, to a friend, to give in such a way that has no end. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other and nothing more. And to be bold, to be brave, it is a thinking that the heart can still be saved. And the darkness can come quick, the danger's in the anger and in the hanging on to it. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other
Here we go. My mic is on now, and it's so good to see you on this wet February morning. Thank you for making it through and up on this hilltop to be with us this morning. If you are visiting with us for the first time, I especially want to welcome you. We hope that no matter who you are or how you make your living, no matter whom you love or how you experience the sacred, you will feel welcome here among us in the fullness of your being. Everyone's invited to stick around after the service. Make your way all the way across the atrium into the social hall where we offer lunch each week freely. I hear today it's vegetarian tagine, so stick around and enjoy that if you can. We have a memory book at the back of the sanctuary. If there's ever something on your heart that you'd like lifted up, read aloud during the service, you can write it there. A grief or gratitude, a joy or a sorrow, or you're always welcome to simply light a candle for a private memory or prayer. We acknowledge as we gather here each week at the intersection of arts, justice, and spirituality that we gather on the unceded territory of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people. We hope that we will do our part to restore what has been broken, that we will have the humility and the courage to live into a new solidarity with indigenous peoples and the earth. We have been exploring in this season of worship the futures we incubate, what it means to hold in our cupped palms the tender growing life before us, to bring with all the attention and intention that we can muster a faithful presence that we might offer a blessing for tomorrow. So that's what we're talking about today. Would you rise in body or in spirit? And before we sing our first hymn, we're going to greet those joining us online by YouTube or Facebook. Thanks for being here. We're so glad you're with us wherever you are. And take a moment to just turn and greet your neighbor. Welcome them to church this morning.
We come from the mountain, living on the mountain. Go back to the mountain, turn the world around. Whoa, so is life. Ah, so is life. Whoa, so is life. Ah, so is life. Do you know who I am? Do I know who you are? See we one another clearly. Do we know who we are? Whoa, so is life, Batiwa. So is life. Whoa, so is life, Batiwa. So is life. Water make the river, river wash the mountain, fire make the sunlight turn the world around.
Heart is of the river, body is the mountain, spirit is the sunlight, turn the world around. We are of the Spirit, truly of the Spirit, only can the Spirit turn the world around. Whoa, so is life, Abatiwa. So is life. Whoa, so is life, Abatiwa. So is life. Whoa, so is life, Abatiwa. So is life. Whoa, so is life, Abatiwa. So is life.
I'd like to invite Asher and Lindsay Leopold to come up and light our chalice. We light our chalice today with these words by the Reverend Richard Gilbert. I rise in the morning torn between the desire to save the world or savor it, to serve life or to enjoy it, to savor the sweet taste of my own joy or to share the bitter cup of my neighbor, to celebrate life with exuberant step or to struggle for the life of the heavy laden. What am I to do when the guilt at my bounty clouds the sky of my vision? When the glow which lights my everyday illuminates the hurting world around me? To savor the world or to save it?
Der Herr segne euch, der Herr segne euch, der Herr segne euch, je mehr und mehr und mehr.
Der Herr segne euch, der Herr segne euch, der Herr segne euch, je mehr und mehr und mehr.
Der Herr segne
und mehr. Je mehr und mehr, 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 je mehr, je mehr und mehr, je mehr und mehr. Euch und eure Kinder, euch und eure Kinder. Der Herr segne euch, je mehr und mehr, euch und eure Kinder.
want to tell you a story this morning that sources on the internet say come from ancient China. This may be one of those times we want to think about whether everything on the internet is true. But it is set in ancient China. And our story today is about an emperor who has no children. And this emperor is getting older and realizes that he needs someone to take his throne after he's gone. And he wants to choose who that's going to be, because he wants the empire to continue as people do. And so, this emperor, who I must say is also an avid gardener, so when he's not off working on matters of state or conquering other places, he spends a great deal of time in his garden, tending his plants. And so he thinks, this is the way that I will pick the next emperor. And so he sends out a decree to 200 boys in the area around the palace, and he says, come to the palace and receive a seed. These 200 boys, only boys could be emperors back in the day. These 200 boys are incredibly excited. They have a chance to be in charge of the entire empire. And so they go on that day and they get a seed. And the emperor says, go home, plant your seed, and come back in 6 months, and we will see who deserves to be the emperor based on the plant that you grow. Well, what an opportunity. And there is one boy in particular, his name is Ling. Ling thinks, I have a real shot at this. He is well known in the village for his ability to grow things. People love his vegetables. He grows beautiful flowers. He loves plants so much. And so he goes home, he finds his best pot, he puts down a layer of rocks, big rocks on the bottom, smaller rocks on top of that, the best soil he can find. He makes a little thumb imprint, and he puts in the seed. And he waters it. Just a little bit, not too much, don't want to drown the seed, but a little bit every day. And he waits. And he waits. And he waits, and he waits, and nothing happens. There's no tiny little shoot coming up. Other boys in the village are beginning to report that things are coming up, that there are tiny little leaves. But for Ling, there is nothing. And he thinks, well, it is a very special seed. Perhaps it needs even better dirt. So he gets a different pot. He does the same thing with the rocks. He finds even better dirt. He drizzles just a little bit of fertilizer on the top, and he continues to water it just a little, just the right amount. And still, nothing happens. At this point, all over the village, boys are talking about their plants that are growing and growing and growing to all kinds of different plants. And Ling thinks, I don't know what is going on, but mine is not growing. Maybe I need to sing to the plant. And so every night, Ling sings to his seed. And he gets more and more elaborate, and he sings and he sings and he sings, and nothing happens. And months go by, and the other plants in the village are growing and growing and growing and growing. And the time has come, 6 months has passed, to go back to the palace. Ling's pot is still bare. The seed has not grown. He does not want to go. It's embarrassing. People have started to make fun of him in the village for not having anything. His grandmother says, the emperor gave you a seed. He will expect to see you there and see what has happened. Ling says, you are right. And so he gathers up his pot of just dirt and the seed, and he goes. And again, the other boys have a whole range of all of the possible flowers and fruiting trees and bamboo and every possible plant you can imagine, and they all gather there. And the emperor begins to look at each one. And Ling arrives in front of the throne with his nothing, and the emperor says, "You have brought an empty pot. What is this?" Ling has never spoken to the emperor, and now he has to explain. And he tries, he says, and he goes through all the things that he did, including the singing. And he said, "Nothing happened. I am so sorry, I have failed." And then suddenly, the emperor breaks into an enormous grin, and he stands and he announces loudly, "I have found the next emperor." Ling and pretty much every other person there is astonished. And the emperor says, "I boiled those seeds before I gave them to you. Nothing should have grown." Ling is the only person who was brave enough and honest enough to bring back an empty pot. And so he deserves to be the emperor. And that is my story. If you could rise and bow to your spirit, we're going to sing the kids out with Lead with Love.
You gotta put one foot in front of the other.
I'm not Megan Dibble. Megan Dibble was to come and share some of her experience with the farm, the animal sanctuary, where she tends and incubates animals. But because of the pouring rain, she had to be there today, caring for the animals. So we'll think of her warming and tending as I share these words from Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker, who Reverend Burens last week quoted towards the end of his sermon, our former president of Star King School for the Ministry. Your gifts, she says, your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or to curse the world. The mind's power, the strength of the hands, the reaches of the heart, the gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting. Any of these can serve to feed the hungry, bind up wounds, welcome the stranger, praise what is sacred, do the work of justice, or offer love. Any of these can draw down the prison door, hoard bread, abandon the poor, obscure what is holy, comply with injustice, or withhold love. You must answer this question: what will you do with your gifts? Choose to bless the world. The choice to bless the world is more than an act of will, a moving forward into the world with the intention to do good. It is an act of recognition, a confession of surprise, a grateful acknowledgement that in the midst of a broken world, unspeakable beauty, grace, and mystery abide. There is an embrace of kindness that encompasses all life, even yours. And while there is injustice, anesthetization, or evil, there moves a holy disturbance, a benevolent rage, a revolutionary love, protesting, urging, insisting that which is sacred will not be defiled. Those who bless the world live their life as a gesture of thanks for this beauty and this rage. The choice to bless the world can take you into solitude to search for the sources of power and grace, native wisdom, healing, and liberation. More, the choice will draw you into community, the endeavor shared, the heritage passed on, the companionship of struggle, the importance of keeping faith, the life of ritual and praise, the comfort of human friendship, the company of earth, the chorus of life welcoming you. None of us alone can save the world. Together, that is another possibility waiting. Will you rise once more, embody your spirit, and let us sing together, "Come, thou font of every blessing." I invite you to take a deeper breath. to settle more deeply into this moment, this place. Feel your connection down to this good earth, to our holy planet that has incubated all life that has ever been here. To feel as your breath moves in and out that connection to all that has been, all that will be, all that is. The gray February sky seems to lend cosmic credence to the silent wail of desperation, a desperation that has been building inside. For months now, facing into the gray and losing hope, losing your heart, that is your courage, your breath, that is your inspiration, your sight, that is your vision. Until a dark and stubborn green presses back against the vast gray, presses back against your visionless sight, presses up into the sky, evergreen, not defiant, but resolute. They do not hope for spring, for the fresh and bright to come. These green giants of the land. But neither have they ever doubted its arrival. God that is revealed in both brokenness and beauty, in gray despair and in green life. Remind us in this stillness we share, in this time of quiet that blesses the space between us, of the gifts that have been warmed inside us, blessings bestowed that we in turn can make of our lives a blessing upon the world. In this community of care and witness, we hold one another through the seasons of our lives. We lift up those joys and sorrows among us. Today we hold our staff member, Charis Damador, who is tending to a family emergency. May she and her whole family be surrounded with love. With Karen Elliott, we offer thoughts. My mentor and global peacemaker, the Quaker Joe Elder, died last week. Now he belongs to the angels. I am so grateful to have known him. He delivered heart surgery equipment to Hanoi during the Vietnam War. We wish for Amy continued healing from a relationship rupture. And we are invited to please spare a thought for federal workers losing their jobs, quitting or retiring to avoid violating their ethics, being fired without cause. In the last week, I've had friends in government lose their jobs and friends in academia lose funding for their research. I'm a researcher in government currently not affected, but worried I will be. The civil service needs your prayers. And with someone we offer happy birthday to my sweet dad, Ron Martin, with Courtney, who turns 77 on Friday. Please surround our family with love and patience as we try to honor him through his dementia. And with Katrin, grateful to be in community with you during my visit home, honoring my mother, Sindri Anderson, whose birthday was yesterday, and my grandmother, deeply involved UUCB member Lilica Anderson, who crossed several years ago on January 31st. May we remember that we are made of the lives of infinite beings who are also made of us. For all these we have read aloud, for all that yet remains in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts, may we know that everything we hold in this room or wherever you are joining us is held in the loving embrace of this community. And by that love beyond all names, the love that cannot and will not let us go. May it be so, and amen. Let's remain seated as we sing together a meditation on breathing. You can jump onto any part or simply breathe and witness if you prefer. When I breathe in.
When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, breathe out,
Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman, one of my spiritual idols, who, when he lived and preached at the Fellowship for All Peoples in San Francisco would sometimes visit and preach here. Mentor to Reverend Dr. King, Howard Thurman said, "Look well to the growing edge." All around us, worlds are dying, and new worlds are being born. All around us, life is dying and life is being born. The fruit ripens on the tree. The roots are silently at work in the darkness of the earth against a time when there shall be new leaves, fresh blossoms, green fruit. Such is the growing edge. It is the extra breath from the exhausted lung. The one more thing to try when all else has failed. The upward reach of life when weariness closes in on all endeavor. This is the basis of hope in moments of despair. The incentive to carry on when times are out of joint and men have lost their reason. The source of confidence when worlds crash and dreams whiten into ash. The birth of the child, life's most dramatic answer to death. This is the growing edge incarnate. Look well to the growing edge. The other morning I discovered on my own growing edge that I have been pursuing a goal for my life for decades that I have kept secret from myself. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you ever had an experience like this, that you discover a goal that you have kept secret from yourself? My secret goal I discovered as I sorted through all of my worldly belongings, flowing in and out of moving boxes, shedding shirts that have hung in my closet without use for years. The secret goal hidden amongst the matching set of pots and pans that I bought for myself when I got divorced and was starting a new home. Hidden amidst the drawer of kitchen tools in disarray, was to live my life in such a way as to avoid a midlife crisis. I imagine I was a young adult when I came up with this goal. I think I was probably about 18 years old. 18 years old and recovering from my first journey through a terrifying experience of psychosis and depression, attempting to rebuild my sense of self in a way that shed the clamped down and constrained relationship to my own needs that seemed, in my young imagination, to be the seed of the terrible menace known as a midlife crisis. And it was another moment, I remember that moment at 18 when I was in a life full of boxes. I'd been 2.5 months away at college when my life snapped back home, and my roommate and my friends from college, they sent my things back in boxes. The room I arrived back in was not my room. My room had already been given to my younger brother, who I think had felt like he had waited long enough for the prized little room at the back of the house. And so, unsettled inside, I found myself trying to settle into an unfamiliar room surrounded by haphazardly packed boxes. The mess inside and the mess around me all just seemed to feed one another, an out-of-control whirlwind of paralysis, sleeplessness, depression. And as I flailed in my overwhelm, one wise person in my life suggested that perhaps just starting to unpack the boxes might bring me some relief. Just to unpack and organize the things. It didn't matter really how I did it, just that I began. And it sounds obvious to me now, but at 18, on that edge of despair, it was a profound insight that organizing the outer world could offer a blessing to my inner world. I won't tell you how long after that it took me to learn to fold the laundry right away after washing it, but as I settled my belongings into the space, I felt myself, my spirit arriving, settling in as well. I was still depressed and raw. That would last months and months more, but just a little more settled. And whether you know times of depression in your life or not, every one of us, I think, has to make our way through passageways like this. Times of groundlessness, of profound loss. And of course, we're living through a great time of collective groundlessness in our country right now. I remember when I began that process of getting divorced, it was one of the most profoundly groundless times of my life. All the stability I'd counted on, all the plans that my psyche had organized itself around, all the possibilities I'd oriented my life toward were suddenly wrenched away. But in that groundlessness, something miraculous happened also. My eyes lifted and I could see a new horizon. What had been a dark and narrow tunnel for years suddenly opened to a wide expanse of possibility. The experience allowed me to understand grief as a passageway to new possibility. I think this is the doorway we are facing as we bear daily witness to the dismantling of our democracy. It's a strange kind of loss, both overwhelming in its scope and, for many of us, still remote in its impact. Nevertheless, it is a loss like all losses that, when felt all the way through, held in cupped palms with the tenderness of the kind of spiritual practice that Reverend Buren's was talking about last week. It beckons us to the unwanted but transforming blessing that grief provides. However badly we wish we could return to the old familiar. And actually, I think that we could understand some of the energy behind that Make America Great Again movement, that idea, the nostalgia, the revisionist, reactionary political force as a refusal to feel the pain of loss. A refusal to acknowledge the truth of the cost of colonialism and consumerism on our lives. A refusal to grieve. But grief, deeply felt, embraced with compassion, allowed to move through the body, grief is a secret blessing, a doorway to new possibility. It's not the prize-winning doorway of the game show, glowing with 1,000 brightly lit bulbs and new cars, vacations, piles of cash laying on the other side. Those doorways I remember watching, staying home sick like Henry was this week from school, The Price is Right showing on daytime TV, gleaming portals of grand prize prosperity. It's not either the sweetly beckoning doorway of falling in love, that delicious doorway adorned with ripe fruit and scented with the intoxicating perfume of fantasy. It's not the Olympic pedestal-shaped doorway of achievement, the laurel-wreathed passageway of purpose and mission leading to ever higher peaks and glory. It is rather a doorway we would not like to pass through. A passageway which we resist and which always takes much longer to go through than we would like. Shadowed by truths we would rather not face, the doorway of grief does not beckon or invite us through. Its sharp edges promise a painful passage, constricting corners forebode moments when it will be hard to breathe. To pass through it seems it will require us to dissolve all our practiced solidity, to relinquish the hard-won forms we have shaped of our beings. And all around this doorway, we see those who've been summoned to the threshold but refuse to pass through. Bodies that have become rigid in their refusal or collapsed at the entrance, collapsed under the weight of a burden they cannot bear to lose. And still others wander, dazed, their body detached from a spirit that does not trust it can handle the journey. And yet those who make the journey through this stricken doorway receive the simple but profound blessing of making contact with their own broken-hearted aliveness. When we arrive before the emperor with the pot full of the seed we diligently watered and fight back tears to confess we have failed, a doorway we didn't even know to look for is thrown open. We discover it was our faithfulness, the day in and day out care and simple commitment to truth that held the blessing all along. The howls and screams, the rants and furiously scrawled journals, the tears shed over a beloved song, the cries that turn to laughter, the laughter that dissolves into wailing. Grief brings us into contact with the holy, with our own sacred aliveness, with that fierce divine spark in each of us that can never be distinguished, never be extinguished, that burns each day with the assurance that no matter how hurt or scared or stuck we feel, it is still possible to bless the world. That love and life are still possible, joy and justice still possible, that we can, through our faithful attention today, offer a blessing for tomorrow. The strategies of our resistance may not yet be clear. Just how we will bring about that more hopeful future remains shrouded in mystery, yet the moment still offers itself up to us, ready to be cupped in our palms, our open palms, the world still ready to be savored and saved, delighted in and wept over each day, asking of us a blessing. I've been taking refuge in this tumultuous time in a book of one of my favorite poets and teachers, David Whyte, his new second volume of what he calls Consolations, short essays on the underlying meaning of everyday words. He says, blessing is a form of paying exquisite attention. It's about paying exquisite attention to what we're trying to bless. In studying with him, I watched the way he shares his exquisite attention, the way he pays attention to the people he is with and the places he is in. He talks about pilgrimages to Ireland, to a place known as Colman's Bed, the dwelling place of an Irish Druidic monk, Saint Colman. He was part of the early days of Irish Christianity around the 6th century. Irish Christianity, you probably know this, somehow managed to hold on to more of the mythopoetic, natural imagination of the pagan, Druidic, native practices as it incorporated Christianity. Maintained a generosity toward the natural world, finding the voice of God both in the blackbird and in the bell calling for prayer. Both the natural world and human civilization offering pathways to the divine. So Colman, he was this wild, contemplative, mystic, meditational artist. But he also ran a very large monastery. So he had both worlds, this political world which was transforming Europe through Irish people going out and founding monasteries in a time of chaos. The center of cultural heritage, of study in what we refer to as the Dark Ages. This political holding on to a civilizational anchor. And as he was leading this international network of monasteries, at the same time, you could imagine him fighting for his vision of justice amongst powers that saw only might makes right. He also needed to, of course, tend to his own spirit. As David said, he had to keep his raw sense of spirituality alive. So he would work, he'd become exhausted, and then he would go up into the mountains in this place, which was below a cliff and had a well. He paints the scene. It was surrounded by watercress and hazel trees, had a cliff at the back with peregrine falcons and ravens, which still to this day nest on that cliff. And then beyond it, cradling holding, beyond, you had this amazing biblical horizon of limestone. And so David shares this poem that starts in Colman's Bed, but it begins with an image of a contemporary, another saint, Saint Kevin, who is known as kind of the Irish Saint Francis because he had this magical, remarkable experience with animals and birds especially. The stories about him, he's always losing his prayer book, and then an animal comes and brings it back to him. So he'll lose it and finds it's in the river, and an otter fishes it out and comes and brings it back to him. A stork comes. So Kevin is praying in his cell. And the old Irish monks, I understand, they would pray not with their hands together, with their hands out like this. So kneeling and praying with cupped palms outward. And suddenly, a blackbird noticed this still and prayerful presence and came and alighted on his palm. And being compassionate and attentive, Kevin held his prayerful palm open. And so the blackbird enjoyed it so much, he began to build a nest there. And still, Kevin held that prayerful palm, this incubating warmth of attention, and the blackbird continued to build the nest and lay its egg there. And of course, at that point, he couldn't stop, so he just kept praying. He kept holding that warm attention, that compassionate care to the only thing that really mattered before him. And the bird incubated its egg, and the egg hatched and flew away. David says, of course, it's an apocryphal story, but it's actually really psychologically precise, he says, to the phenomenon of deep meditation, of warming interior forms into light. It's about the spiritual practice of offering a blessing. To give attention so wholeheartedly as to once allow an unimaginable future to incubate in one's prayerful palm. So Coleman's Bed, a prayer, a blessing, a poem to close by David White. Make a nesting now. Make a nesting now, a place to which the birds can come. Think of Kevin's prayerful palm holding the blackbird's egg, and be the one who, looking out from this place, warms interior forms into light. Be the one who warms interior forms into light. Feel the way the cliff at your back gives shelter to your outward view, then bring in from those horizons all discordant elements that seek a home. Be taught now, among the trees and rocks, how the discarded is woven into shelter. Feel the way things hidden and unspoken slowly proclaim their voice in the world. Find that far inward symmetry to all outward appearances. Begin to welcome back all you sent away. Be a new annunciation. Make yourself a door through which to be hospitable even to the stranger in you. Make yourself a door through which to be hospitable even to the stranger in you. See with every turning day how each season wants to make a child of you again, wants you to become a seeker after birdsong and rainfall. Watch how it weathers you into a testing in the tried and true. Tells you with each falling leaf to leave and slip away, even from the branch that held you, to be courageous, to go when you need to be like that last word you'd want to say before you leave the world. Above all, be alone with it all. A hiving off, a corner of silence amidst the noise. Refuse to talk, even to yourself, and stay in this place until the current of the story is strong enough to float you out. Ghost, then, to where others in this place have come before, under the hazel, by the ruined chapel, below the cave where Coleman slept. Become the source that makes the river flow, and then the sea beyond. Live in this place as you were meant to, and then, surprised by your abilities, become the ancestor of it all. The quiet, robust, and blessed saint that your future happiness will always remember. May it be so, and amen.
joyful hymn.
A joyful hymn of praise. For each perfect gift of thine, to all people freely given, praises you.
Hello, I am Pierre Sunho. I am co-president of your board of trustees. In our covenantal community, we share the responsibility for pursuing our mission by giving generously of our time, talent, and treasure. I invite you to support the work of our church by giving electronically by scanning the QR code on the back of your badge or by putting a cash or check donation in the donation envelope that you'll find in the back of the pew in front of you. And then put it into the donation box that's beside the fountain in the atrium as you exit the service. Each week, half of our offering is shared with a nonprofit Good Neighbor organization. The Good Neighbor organization for this month is Through the Looking Glass, I believe. Will you please join me in oh, no, that's it. Sorry. I'm sorry, I don't have it. Okay. Would you please join me in rededicating ourselves to our mission? We dedicate our offering and ourselves to the mission of this congregation, to create loving community, inspire spiritual growth, and encourage lives of integrity, joy, and service. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre. Megan from Through the Looking Glass was to be with us this week, but she's not feeling well. It's going around right now, isn't it? So she'll be here with us next week to share a little bit more about Through the Looking Glass. There's always so much happening in the life of our community. I just want to share a couple things with you. Of course, you can always find this in the week ahead on our website under the news section. We are encouraging people to leave room as those who have mobility needs to be able to have the closest parking spaces here in this lot if you can, if you're early enough, if you can walk further to park a little further away and leave room. That would be a wonderful way of being beloved community together. If you are interested in learning more about Unitarian Universalism or just getting more connected with the congregation here, we've got a Pathway to Connection class happening. It starts today, and some of you I know have signed up. If you haven't signed up and you'd like to join anyway, you're welcome. It's with me, and Reverend Jay Atkinson is going to share some Unitarian Universalist history. It'll be time to connect with one another. So if you want to come, grab your lunch, and then meet us in the fireside room out to the left out there. And next week, it's a two-part class, but you can come to either one or both, and you'll catch it again. We'll do it again in a couple months. February 8th is Love Songs and Chocolate, wonderful concert fundraiser. The choir will be singing. Plan to be there Saturday night if you can, and tickets are online or at the door. I invite you now to rise once more in body or in spirit, and let's sing together a closing hymn at same one we just heard the choir, but our hymnal version, For the Beauty of the Earth. Reach out a hand or an elbow, touch a shoulder. Let us be connected. Reach out to that great beyond. Feel ourselves held in a nesting as we make a nesting of our own beings, warming interior forms into light. Choose to bless the world. It needs it. Amen.